Hey, thanks for coming back to Duckman Cycles and VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with my 1956 Beetle, and we're working on this engine that you see right here. We're going to try to treat this metal that's on here. Unfortunately, when I did this work about a week ago and stripped all the paint off of this thing, I wound up just entirely too busy to be able to finish it. So I just threw everything together and put it back in the garage, and I haven't touched it in, well, almost a week. So what happened is, because the humidity's been so high, there's actually a little bit of flash rusting. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's some orange through here, and there's little specks showing up here and there that weren't there at all before. So we need to address that and make that go away. One option, of course, is to sandblast it again. But once again, we're still leaving exposed metal open to the elements. So what's the best way to treat it? Well, phosphoric acid, of course. You guys have seen me do this before when I was treating floor pans. This is really going to be no different. So we're going to tear this engine down, throw it up on the workbench here, and we're going to demonstrate, real simply, very boring. You still might want to watch it, because I'm going to interject with a little bit of what is Duckman. Like I said, it's really going to be pretty simple. We'll just get this thing brushed down, we'll get everything sat and soaked, and I like to give it about 24 hours before I try to set it up with any paint. There are better products on the market, such as zinc chromate. Zinc chromate primers and such leave a nice plating coating on this, but this isn't just raw phosphoric acid. This is actually a brand name, and I forgot what brand it is. It was something I bought years ago that was discontinued, and I bought everything they had. But it's not unlike Ospho or some other brands. Down below in the video description, you'll find some links to Ospho products, and you should be able to get some phosphoric acid for yourself to treat your metal, and I recommend it highly. Paint will stick real nicely if you prep it properly. That's the key. You can't just throw phosphoric acid on it and then put paint on it. It's going to peel. So we'll demonstrate a little bit about that, but first off, we're just going to tear this engine down, and let's get to prepping. Alright, I almost forgot, and I wasn't even going to record it, but these tins have cracks in them here. And I also need to do a little bit of sandblasting on it, but we're going to touch up the cracks in here. I have to hammer out some of this on here. I'll spare you the raw details of some of the stupid bits that are on here. But I've already got that one welded in, so we've got that piece fixed. A little bit of touch-up sandblasting on that. Again, I'll spare you the details. But that one's ready for... ready to be blasted next. So let's go ahead and get this sucker welded in here. I don't see any other cracks or any other bits on this that needs to be repaired, but we also need to make a piece to go on here to square this up. So I'm going to drop a little piece into that corner. We'll weld that in too right now. Alright, looking pretty good otherwise. Let's go ahead and get on it, stay on it. Now for this, on my welder, I'm using some of the lightest settings. I got the wire feed set to about 40%. And I'm just on the A, because this will probably burn through, because this is well, it's mildly compromised. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit it up. You know what helps? It helps if you attach the ground first. I'm not using a metal welding table here, so the only way you're going to get a ground is if you attach directly to the item. Duh! Alright, let's go ahead and get on here. Make this look nice. Alright. that should just about do it. That's gonna need just a little bit of grinding. That one was a lot uglier than the first one. Shit. That actually wasn't very nice at all. First one came out great. That's sloppy, and you know why? It's because I'm recording it. See, in here there's another spot we need to hit a little more, so let's go ahead and do it. I think that should get it. This one had more cracks going in a couple different directions. There was a crack going this way and there was a crack going that way. And they were bigger than the cracks on the other one. Alright, got my body hammer. Got my little anvil here on the back of my vise. I should be able to beat this down. Like, how am I going to orient this on here? There really is no good way. Okay. Lovely. Jeez, that's tremendously better than it was. Way better. Okay, that's way better than it was. Way better than it was. That thing was all gnarly and all bent way out of shape. It's a little flat in here. There should be a swedge line in here like there is over here by cylinder 3. But, it's not that far off. I'll leave it be. I gotta get in here with the grinder though and hit the weld a little bit. There's a little bit of welder wire that stuck that I need to pull out of there. So I'll clean that up a little bit. The inside I'm just going to file it real quick and hit it with a wire brush. Nobody's ever going to see it anyway, so I don't need to get too fancy in there. Alright, I think that turned out okay. Without putting that much effort into it, it actually turned out very okay. And yes, several people have asked, hey, where's your captive nuts that go in that hole? Lost. Lost before I ever got it. So, yeah, it'll be a stop to the hardware store to get some pieces for that. I may wind up completely filling it in altogether. That's better. That was all dented in too. Now it's flat. Alright, I think that turned out pretty good. Alright. Nailed it! I forgot I had this. Thank you, Earl, for the recommendation there. Earl over at Classic Car Creations. Put this in here. Here we go. Probably should dial back the speed on it a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't need to go that fast. Ah, here we go. Maybe we can get in here and we can smooth this out. This belt is a little worse for wear, but it's still doing a pretty good cutting job, despite looking that bad. So I'm not even going to bother replace it. Besides, I don't want to be too aggressive in here anyway and cut through sheet metal. Alright, I think that'll get it. Let's see what we got here on the outside. That might be something better accomplished with a die grinder. It's a little hard to get in there. Maybe even the Dremel, that's much finer than I think I need for this here. Alright, stop on that one for the moment. This one needs like nothing. Welds on this turned out much better. Alright, good to go on there. I think so. Don't need any topside grinding here. That looks good enough to me. This one we're going to touch up with a Dremel. Well, I accidentally didn't hit the record button. But these are my tin snips here. And I really like these because they don't make a whole lot of noise. They cut real nice with a lot of control. It helps if you don't get caught in a bend. They don't like to cut through anything but flat metal. But if you're cutting through anything flat, they go real well. You know, it actually does a really, really good job. So anyway, that's how I cut this little piece out here. It needs a little bit of fine tuning and tweaking. I'll do that on the grinder, but let's see how that piece drops into here. Let's see how this looks. Yep, not bad. Just needs to be touched up with the grinder, like I said. Cool. We'll make that happen. This piece in here. I'm going to weld it in there just like that and then cut off the excess. And that looks pretty good. Alright, let's clean off some of this paint. Okay. Here we go. Get this all clamped together real nice. We did a pretty good job clamping that together. I have to lift up on this a little bit to make sure these two pieces are flush because the weight of the clamp is actually pulling down on it a bit. I could weld it from the other side. Yeah, the weight of the clamp would then pull it down the opposite direction. That actually will work too. It's also a lot easier to get the welder in there. Here we go. That's how we're going to do it. See, right here we have a little high spot. Okay, let's go ahead and get welded. Motherfucker. Okay, that should get it. Okay, it looks pretty good. Well, for my shitty welds. I'm having trouble focusing my eyes today. My eyes are very, very dry, and that's not doing anything good for me as far as welding is concerned here because I just can't see. I need to go get me some Visine before I do any more welding. But what we need to do over here was create a corner so that way these two pieces, when they fit together, you see it no longer has a gap there. That way it fills in the only air hole that was going to be leaking. And it probably, you see those two bolt holes that are here, I probably should have made it a little tang that goes over to that as well. So that way I could have screwed it all together. That would have been even nicer. But it's all going to press together. It's really not necessary. Yeah, we'll see if I change my mind. Alright, I'm going to grind that down. Do a little fill in a couple little spots I noticed I missed. And it looks like actually there's a couple holes over here, pinholes that need to be welded through too. So I'll touch that up also. No rusty holes or anything shitty on this end. Yeah, let's go ahead and go with it. Alright, there we go. Everything test fit together. I'm much happier with that. Check that out. No more holes. Freaking fantastic. Now I'll drill those 2 little holes in here so that way I can run the screws into there to attach these 2 pieces of metal. No longer have an air leak in there, so that's fantastic. That hole stays. That's actually for the drain tube that's supposed to come off the filler. I'm going to change this filler out. I don't remember if I put that in the video. I don't think I did, but the tool that actually replaces the stock filler, well, what's going to go back on here, is actually a piece of crap. But we'll get into that in another video, but that's something that does need to be changed out. Well, that's looking pretty damn fantastic. Let's go ahead and throw it in the blaster, get it cleaned up, and get some phosphoric acid on there.
2 hours later.
Alright, it got a little dark out here. I got invited to lunch with Jamie, one of my YouTube fans. Thank you very much, Jamie, for the lunch over at McGuire's here in Pensacola. We had some good burgers with his family and met some very nice people. Anyways, as I came on back here, it was still daylight, so I decided to finish up my sandblasting. And I did a pretty good job here, but of course, it looked like the sun set while I was doing the work. So we're going to move this over into the light, and then we're going to start putting some phosphoric acid onto everything and see if we can get these things coated up real nice so that way they can dry overnight. Alright, well, we are back. We got everything set up over here underneath my light, and I think this will get us done for this evening. I sandblasted a couple parts. This is the one that goes on the back side of the air shroud, and it wraps the oil cooler. The oil cooler will blow through here and then down. Oops. Alright, well, we are back. We got everything set up over here underneath my light, and I think this will get us done for this evening. I sandblasted a couple parts. This is the one that goes on the back side of the air shroud, and it wraps the oil cooler. The oil cooler will blow through here and then down. Oops. Down, and then right out through the bottom. And this is the chute that the air then goes down through and exits out through the tin between the transmission and the engine onto the ground. So these are parts that I also needed to sandblast. I did a pretty good job on them, I think. These are parts you're really never going to see, but they were rusty, nasty, so they needed a good coating, so it's time to do it. Of course, got our cylinder tins here. I got these things blasted pretty well. The tin welding that I did inside of here virtually disappeared, so I'm not even going to bother grinding that down anymore. I'm happy with it. I think they're clean enough. Again, the inside doesn't need to be perfect because we're not going to see it. So, let's go ahead and get on this here. We've got my trusty paintbrush and my bottle of wonderful phosphoric acid. And this stuff works fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Usually what I do with it is I like to pour it in the cap, just like this. You don't need a whole lot. What you really need to do is just get enough on these tins just to wet them. You don't need to soak them, just wet them. Just wet and spread. Just like that. I mean, it'll go a long way. Just get a good coating on it. Try not to make it too thick, otherwise you're going to get kind of a swirling situation when it dries. And you'll have to clean all that off before you can put paint on it, otherwise the paint won't stick. And what this is going to do is it's going to etch the surface. And any of the exposed metal that's just bare steel is going to be coated with a phosphoric iron phosphate coating. And anything that's rust usually gets dissolved and goes away. Either that or it turns black, once again becoming encapsulated. Okay, and just keep spreading it. Just keep spreading it out. Make sure it's on there and it's wet, but you know, like I said, it doesn't need to be drenched. Just get a good coating on it. Now, push this out of the way. This stuff, phosphoric acid, isn't particularly strong. It's really not going to burn the crap out of your hands, but you don't want to soak your hands in it. So do the best you can not to get it on you. It's probably a good idea to wear gloves if you're a slob. In my case, I've worked with it before, so I know what I'm doing. But this has already been coated. I coated it earlier today. You can see the color of the metal is just completely different from that of bare steel that's been sandblasted. You can see the difference right there. If you do apply that stuff too heavy, as I said, you end up with a swirling situation like this. You see that mess? That's all going to have to be cleaned off. So this is something I'll be hitting with a wire brush later. Once I've got this fully dried. Of course, it's still a little damp. These swirls that you see on here are kind of mushy. Now what you can do is with a wet brush with phosphoric acid already on it, you can kind of brush some of that off sometimes and spread it real thin. And that might help you to clean it up if you wind up in a situation like this. Alright, let's keep going here and get these things coated. And this is what I do to stabilize the metal before you get that paint on there. So that way if the metal does try to rust underneath my brand new coatings, it can't. unless of course you scratch through it, but that's another case. But this will make the metal unreactive to oxygen, therefore it won't rust. Boy, somebody is killing that friggin' dog. I sure wish it would die because I'm tired of listening to it. Alright, it's also a good idea to be very careful with your brush strokes. Don't go brushing it up into your eyes, because when you brush those bristles and you release, it may have a tendency to do that. Also, watch your bristles from the brush. Sometimes they'll get stuck in your workpiece. And if they get stuck in here, sometimes they'll actually lodge themselves into the iron phosphate coating. And then you have more of a mess to clean up the next day. Alright, let's get a little more of the phosphoric acid in here. And get these things coated real nicely. You want to cover every surface, because you don't want these things rusting anywhere. As I said, this acid is extremely weak. If you get it on your clothes, it probably won't even take the color out of your jeans. So burning a hole is out of the question. It's not going to be that serious if you do manage to get it on you. But once again, don't get it in your eyes. You will feel that. It doesn't take necessarily water to make steel rust, but water will facilitate the, well, I should say expedite the process. But just sitting in the air, being exposed to oxygen, will react to the metal, albeit more slowly. Alright, try to brush down as much of the foaming as you can. You don't want the stuff on there too thick that it's gonna leave those marks that you're gonna have to clean off tomorrow. See, the metal is already starting to change color, and not just because it's wet, but because it's actually reacting with the acid. You can see the colors there between the two of them. Alright, let's get this put up and out of the way. Now would be a very bad time to go take a leak, because if you go pee and you have that little bit of phosphoric acid on your hands and you get it on or in your pee hole, you'll probably remember that one for the rest of your life. I should have fixed that a little better. That hole's not as round as it should be. It's for the spark plug holes there. I'll fix that later once this stuff dries. Okay. Whoa, no droppy. This stuff, phosphoric acid, you also don't want to get it on your pavement. The concrete down below me will be highly reactive with this stuff, and it'll foam, and it'll probably leave a white stain on the pavement. Won't burn a hole or anything exciting like pouring muriatic acid on your stonework, but got some of those bristles stuck in here. Clean that on out of there. As I said before, you don't want the bristles stuck in your workpiece. Some of these paintbrushes, these are cheap Harbor Freight paintbrushes, but sometimes they shed. And they get all in your paintwork and whatever else. But they make good acid dipping brushes. Alright, that one's cutted. That one will move over to here. Alright, now we have the big breastplate. And you can see up in here, this is the area that I made that corner for. And running my finger over it, it's pretty flat and smooth. You see some marks in it, I mean barely from where the welding was. But that's all going to disappear once we got the acid on it. And then of course, we'll throw a little bit of filler on it. It probably won't even be Bondo. I might even just spread some putty over it. Primer it, putty it, quicksand, very, very light sand with some really, really fine sandpaper, and then put the final coat of paint on it and be done with it. But after this acid soaks in, any of those marks that you saw down there are just going to disappear. We don't even need that much more acid here. A little bit more. Good, good. Okay. Somebody just passed by in a very, very noisy bicycle. He was just knocking and banging as he was pedaling down the street. I could still hear it. Okay. Okay, we are almost done. Alright, now this stuff just gets left out to dry overnight. And then tomorrow, we should be ready just to brush it down and get any of the powdery residue off of it. And then it's ready for primer paint. Maybe some sanding if I feel that ambitious. This cap now will go back on the bottle, but do not put it directly into the bottle, because what I had done is I was dipping the paintbrush in that so that it may be contaminated with some iron filings or, you know, whatever else might have gotten in there. And if you put that back onto the container as is, that stuff's going to get into the acid and it's going to lose its potency. That's right. Your acid will become impotent. So rinse this out with water if you do what I do before you put it back in there. This thing needs a good rinse out anyway. There's some paper still in there from the old seal that sealed the cap shut, so I'm going to dig that out of there and throw it away, because that doesn't need to be getting down in the acid either. Alright, we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, and we are back. Cap goes back on the bottle. Paintbrush is just a little wet. Just kind of dry it off, get it out of the way. Of course, it's nice to spread these parts out. Shit, just got the acid on my forearm. Right where the thin, sensitive skin is. As I said, this probably won't burn your hands, but somewhere like the soft skin of your forearm on the underside there probably will. So I'm going to be rushing over to the sink in just a moment and give myself a good rinse. See if we can get these pieces spread out real nice. Alright, that should give them adequate space to get the wind on them and dried. I think it's supposed to rain tonight, so we're going to check the forecast, and if that is the case, we're going to move all these suckers inside. Right now, what I'm doing is brushing the bubbles down on the surface here, because the less bubbles it has, the better it will actually dry without leaving all them swirly marks that I had mentioned to you before that you don't want. You see all this foaming? You don't want that. Just kind of flatten it out. There you go. Alright, the way things are looking here, I think everything's going to dry nice and evenly without all them nasty swirl marks that I had mentioned before. And I did all that work with only, what, about 4 or 5, yeah, I guess it was about 5 capfuls of that stuff. It went a long way. If you do a whole floor pan on a Volkswagen, I like to just take it and just splash it across the floor pan and spread it out. But in this case, just 4 or 5 capfuls, I think it was probably 5, just spread out across this stuff was enough to do the job. Alright, there it is. Thank you very much for watching. Really, I do appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow. You know, check out all of my other forms of social media up on, it's over this shoulder, duckshit.net. That's going to be my brand new website. There's a whole bunch of data up there right now that allows you to find things by just clicking. So type in duckshit.net to your favorite browser and choose a link, and you're off and running. So I hope that gets you to where you need to be. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe as always. And thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back soon, hopefully tomorrow. Depending upon how busy I am at work and whether or not the rain holds out. We'll see how that turns out. Just going to do the best I can with each day as it goes by. Thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate it. See you next time.